Welcome to the Nerd Social. I'm Nathan.
And I'm Colin.
I'm Jhon.
And I'm Colin. Sorry about that, Jhon. Yeah.
It's bound to happen.
So we're going to do a review of the 5th episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It is named Truth, which is related to the comic book miniseries of the same name, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So before we start, we are going to give our general impressions of the episode and then get into spoiler talk. Before I go on, I should say, if you we would really appreciate it if you like the video. It helps other people who are like you find the video. And with that, Jhon, do you want to start off with what you thought about this episode?
Yeah, it continues off from where we last left off on the previous episode with John Walker, just reeling from what had happened, what he had done, coming to grips with it, and still not quite realizing or having the awareness of or the gravity of what he had really done, except just looking at it himself. And of course, Sam and Bucky are confronting him. I love that scene, that whole great fight scene. They're doing great fight scenes in this series, and I just love that. Very powerful, and it looks like the stakes are all there, and everyone gets a piece of each other. So it started off with some great action, and then quickly took us to slowing things down. Sam trying to figure out, get his grips of the gravity of really the shield and what it's meant. And he's thinking of Isaiah Bradley, and we visit with him. That was very powerful there, and definitely some teaching moments there, learning moments there for me and my family as we're watching that. And of course he goes back to his family, his sister, and trying to fix up the boat, and the community comes together, and Bucky's there too. And they seem to mend things a little bit as well, he and Sam. And I really appreciated those moments as well. And also reflecting on what he's learned about Bradley. And then finally, of course, towards the end, Winter Soldier, Sam, gives him a little gift. And I'm waiting for him to open it, and they say that for the next episode. Of course, right? But love the episode. Love it. I just loved everything about it. I love the fact that we got action, they slowed things down as well. And we got some very visceral moments there as well with Bradley, and can't wait to get into it a little bit more.
Yeah, there was a little spoiler-ish,
oh, sorry about that.
no worries.
I was going to mention that, but it's
you didn't get into too much detail, but go on.
It's okay. I think in terms of general impressions, it definitely tied up a lot of the storylines that were going from all the way back to episode 1 to now. So as Jhon mentioned, there was definitely a lot of things that were going on. They did kind of tie up those loose ends and just tie them up so that it's a good kind of a segue into the final episode and try to conclude it in some kind of satisfactory conclusion to the audience itself. So I think that they did a very good job of that. I know why it took like 61 minutes in order for them to kind of tell the story, because they did have to wrap up with a lot of things, but it didn't feel rushed at all. It didn't feel as though it was definitely earned, and it wasn't rushed. I think that there was only, I think, one scene where I did feel as though it was kind of rushed, but other than that, I felt that it was definitely well earned, like I said, and also making sure that a lot of the loose ends were being tied up before the final episode.
Yeah, I enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed it after the second watch. I thought it was a little slow compared to the previous episode, but I understand why it was slow. Mm-hmm. Compared to the previous episode, and actually after the second watch, I appreciated them taking their time to kind of set the table for the big spectacular that's going to be basically the end of the season. And I appreciated them circling back to some of the things that they reference at the beginning of the season with Sam and his family. So yeah, it was a good episode. It was solid. It was some really solid stuff, and also I have some clips of two specific conversations that I think were very, very well written in this episode. So with that, I think we should move on to our full spoiler talk. Spoilers ahead. We're going to fully spoil this episode. So if you haven't seen it, watch it and come back and join us in this conversation. All right, so we are going to start with Jhon Walker, then talk about Karli, and then focus on Bucky and then Sam. So I have a couple slides here. So we start off with this fight, right? So what did you guys think of the fight in at the beginning of the episode?
Go ahead.
Oh, well, I think that is definitely amazing. It kind of, again, refer back to Winter Soldier and Civil War as well. Yeah. The fight, and also definitely even some beat of between, like that fight between Winter Soldier, Iron Man, and Captain America, the first one. So really had that type of beat, and also and I definitely listened to the music. The music is actually from Civil War, like the undertones of it. So it was really fascinating that they try to refer back to that. And so, but it's definitely a different dynamic, because if you remember Civil War, it was the dynamic of Steve Rogers and Bucky. Basically, Steve Rogers protecting Bucky, and then Iron Man being the antagonist in there and trying to trying to avenge his parents' death. And so here it's more. It definitely there's the three-pronged approach, but very different circumstances of why each of them are fighting. And also the MacGuffin in this case is the shield. Actually, it's not the parents' death. So definitely it's very interesting that it's three people that are battling, but it's like different dynamics, different circumstances, and just really fascinating. And just the sheer violence of it was just like also a little bit jaw-dropping as well. So I found it really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
My only gripe about the fight. While it was great choreography, great. I loved the way they filmed everything, and as you said, Colin, the sheer violence of it too. Everything was hard hitting. The great sound effects. You really felt it every time they took a hit or threw a punch or something. But Bucky, did they depower him? He should have been able to kind of kick his ass by himself. But even with Sam getting in there as well, I thought, okay, I guess they need to make it entertaining to even it out a little bit here. But, I just thought they carried that on a little bit too far. But, again, a great fight. And Sam getting his wings torn off, I thought that was great. And as soon as I saw that, I said, yeah, he's going to get new ones. I wonder what's going to look like, right? And so they had to set that part up. But, again, great fight. And they showed that they ended up in the end they beat the crap out of Jhon, and he was defeated, broke his arm, and even my kids were like, oh, his arm definitely went on that one. So yeah, just I love the fact that it's basically telling the whole story with the action scene, right? With the action scene, it is above the shield. There were definitely moments where they try to make the shield. The way they angle the camera, you definitely see the blood very prominently in the foreground of the shield. They did it twice, two quick cuts to that during the fight. So just to show that, hey, look, the tainted shield. Here it is again, the tainted shield. This is what they're fighting over. And then they ended it with Sam trying to wipe the blood. I'm like, go get some Bounty. Wet the paper towels and wipe it. Why are you using your hand? Why are you sullying your hands, man? It's not your blood. So, but I get it. It's for the imagery. He's trying to do that and showing reverence to it still. So yeah, that great fight scene.
Yeah, it was a good fight scene. I think that Jhon Walker wasn't as trained as he is before he took the serum, then it would have been a easy fight for Bucky to win. But they spent all this time showing that he was a top soldier before he took the serum. And Bucky was definitely not a top soldier before he got the serum. He's been trained. He's been trained very well over the last 90 years, but he wasn't at like peak physical condition like studied by MIT great before that. So I can understand what the plus he got the training from the army. So I think that's why they had to double team him, that team was really good because they were very inventive about how they used Sam's wings, not just his wings, but like everything at his disposal. After the wings came off, Sam still used the rocket launcher to get more force to pull the shield off of Walker. That's part of the reason that his arm broke. I mean, it was the force of Bucky with his super soldier serum and Sam's rocket broke his arm in the other direction. I'm going to talk more about Sam and the shield when we get to Sam, but it was definitely a humiliating situation for Walker. And if you remember at the beginning of the scene, he runs into the warehouse and he says, "Why didn't you listen?" And it's intercut with all these scenes with Lamar. So he's still a little. I mean, he's still reeling from the situation, and also he knows that he did something wrong because he ran away from the scene. So he's definitely conflicted, and the scenes that we see with Lamar are specifically the scenes where he's trying to like coach him and talk him down and show him that he should probably approach things in an even keel way. So having him say, "Why didn't I listen? Why didn't I listen?" It's interesting. Yet again, Wyatt Russell is doing really good work in this show. So after the shield, continuing to follow Jhon before we get to the other characters. After the shield is stripped from him, he gets more things stripped from him because he is in front of this committee, which strips him of his rank as Captain America, or strips him of the title of Captain America. Then it strips him of his rank. They discharge him. They don't discharge him dishonorably, but they do discharge him. They don't give him an honorable discharge. And then he's met by
his benefits too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He also doesn't have any benefits, which leaves him in a very vulnerable position for our guest star for the week, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who shows up as Madame Hydra. Or actually, she doesn't introduce herself as Madame Hydra. She introduces herself as Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. So that's her name.
Mouthful. Wow. Yeah.
Say that again.
So what?
Val. Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you guys think of this little scene, and also the scene before this when he was stripped of his everything? He stripped of everything. He doesn't even have a pension from the army.
Yeah,
I felt for him.
Yeah, definitely.
I definitely felt for him in that scene. It's typical of it just sounded like the plight of someone, the good soldier who, or supposedly good soldier, that put in his time, did his job, did what he was told, and only for America, the American system, to the military powers to fail him, right? By stripping him of all of that. I thought we were trying to really evoke that, and I certainly felt that. But at the same time, you have to remember what he did, right? He screwed it himself and just let it go too far. And then with her scene, she looked like she was really enjoying that. It definitely was a fun scene for her. And at first I couldn't tell. I was like, is that who I think it is? And just from certain angles, she looked a little different, and but she was hilarious, and especially talking about this little firecracker sitting next to me. So that lots of great lines for, and just for that little short scene. She stole the show in that one, definitely.
Yeah, definitely for our younger audiences, you remember from Veep. I never watched Veep yet, so I don't really know her work from Veep. But definitely for our old. Yes, for older audiences, she's really remembered as Elaine Bennis from Seinfeld. Yep. Definitely a different character than that. So it's definitely refreshing to see that. But I did read some stuff, online, getting to know about the character that she played, but also the fact that we can get into this later on with theories and stuff. But just so that they wouldn't probably have casted her if they didn't have some type of significant role for her in the future. I mean, to do a cameo like that, it would just like a brief cameo like that. I mean, Marvel has done that in the past to some effect, with Matt Damon, definitely from Thor Ragnarok. And so there's some of that, but I just get a sense that it may be more to her role in the future, but we can get into that later on. But definitely, she did steal the show during the scenes in which she was with John Walker, and I think that's his wife, right? Did they mention that?
His wife. In the conversation.
They mentioned that. So yeah, so that's been confirmed. So yeah, it's just very fascinating to kind of see what is going to be in store for her, moving forward.
Yeah, it was those scenes back to back were very good. I mean, the scene in front of the tribunal was better written to me. It was speaking about basically, like you said, Jhon, what the country sometimes does to the tools that they make, or the weapons that they make. They hang them out to dry. Do you guys think that if this wasn't streamed across the world, they would have disposed of him as easily? If he had killed that person in private and everyone didn't see, what do you think would have happened to him? Do you think that he would have been as summarily dismissed? It was more about the embarrassment than what he actually did, I think.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Yeah, they would have reused him, give him a new assignment. Yeah. You know that.
Yeah. Most exactly likely.
Right. Good point.
Yeah, they would probably do that. I mean, it's just because it was caught on tape, then they're like, okay, we have to hold ourselves accountable and responsible. Kind of speaks to a lot of things that are happening in the world today, unfortunately. So, But if it wasn't caught on tape, if it wasn't seeing the light of day or anything like that, yeah, they're definitely going to be, reassign that person to some other post, some other dangerous mission, or some other thing like that.
Yeah, I mean, what he said is correct. They made him, and then they're trying to like dispose of him. They we can jump right into. I mean, since we don't have anything we talk about, her character isn't going to be like a spoiler for what's happening later on, because she's going to show up probably in the Black Widow movie. She was actually supposed to show up in the Black Widow movie. She was supposed to show up in the Black Widow movie before this, because the Black Widow movie was supposed to be released before this, and then we had a global pandemic. So in the comic, she's Madam Hydra. So there are possibilities that she could recruit him into something called like the Dark Adventures, or she might recruit him into the Thunderbolts. So she's definitely going to show up a lot in the future. I don't think they would have gotten.
She didn't look like that in the show.
This is
comics.
Yeah, they're probably not going to have her in this. She's probably not going to have her in this skin tight catsuit. But this is what the character looks like. This is what the character looks like in the comics. So yeah, she is associated with Hydra, even though Hydra isn't around anymore. Yeah. But I'm sure everyone wasn't caught. So we shall see. I don't think Julia Louis-Dreyfus would have signed on to this if it was just this bit part. It's definitely something that's going to expand in the coming installments, coming movies and things like that. So she's probably going to be a big player in the MCU going forward. So should be interesting to see how they use her, how they use this character, because they always. The MCU universe is completely different than the Marvel universe, so so they're not going to go straight forward with how she is portrayed in the comics. So It should be interesting. So
Yeah.
moving on from there, we get that after that conversation, his wife suggests that he go and talk to Lamar's people, his parents.
Yep.
And he isn't very truthful in this scene. What did you guys make of this scene? It was very interesting. It was very interesting exchange to me.
Yeah, I just feel as though like the whole thing was trying to butter him up a lot. It's just like, but like I think I understand why that is the case because like how, you know, Lamar really admired him and really thought really highly of him, but it was kind of toxic in that regard because, you know, he's in a very vulnerable position and then you're trying to play him up and it's just like that's not the right thing to do with a guy like that just like killed someone, right? So I mean also it was really jarring that that the parents really thought of that as justice almost in some ways, even though he kind of misinterpreted the truth a little bit, you know, when he talked about what happened. But I just found that, I mean, yeah, you may think of it as though the parents might have been angry, they might have been stressed, and they might have been even justified to say that in some regard. But I just found that very shocking that they just said that you know, they received some form of justice because he killed the man, and that guy actually did not even do it. So it's like,
yeah.
So it's kind of very, very strange, and also like the whole buttering him up and stuff like that.
Yeah, they I thought if he was telling the truth, let's say it was the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought the way it played out would have been typical of what most families or the average family would want. They would want some sort of justice or some closure, knowing that the killer of their son was taken care of, right? And if it was just straightforward like that, I think it would have been okay. But obviously, we know the truth. We know what happened, and we know this guy definitely went after the wrong person and took it out and killed the wrong person, and definitely not the killer of Lamar. And so that definitely adds to more of the, not necessarily twist, but the twistedness is really what it is. He's twisting the truth, and at the same time, their feedback, their ways to try to console him and to validate that what he did was supposedly right, it's now eating him. He knows he didn't. He knows he didn't do the right thing. He knows that it was definitely not the right person. So now, now that it's pumped up and made a big deal of that, the fact that, hey, at least you brought him to justice, the killer to justice. Well, now he knows he didn't. So therefore, that's his next mission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the it made me. While I was feeling for him in the previous scene, the scene when he was in front of the tribunal, because I think they disposed of him too easily. I not that he didn't do something wrong that should have had some sort of repercussion, but I think that they kind of hung him out to dry in those scenes. Here I'm back to like liking him again, because he's basically manipulating. I mean, he's manipulating the truth. And if he was someone who even had half of the character of like Sam or Steve, when they started heaping praise on him, he would have come clean. He would have said something like he would have said no. Or I don't know. He would have at least been somewhat self-effacing, even if he couldn't bring himself to tell them the truth that he didn't really kill their son's killer, and he didn't have any of that, because I think he even having this giant blow, he has a life of people heaping praise on him, and he doesn't even really think about or if he thinks about it, he thinks about it in his own private thoughts or with his close friend Lamar, because we saw him thinking about it, I guess, a little bit with Lamar. The fact that maybe the praise isn't justified, but I think this is another scene where he could have shown his character, and I guess we got a sense of his character, and it's not great. I don't think he's irredeemable or as Madame Hydra thinks, not useful. I think he's definitely going to be useful to someone in the future, just like he was useful to the government until he was no longer useful. But it's another scene that shows why he shouldn't have been. He shouldn't have gotten the shield in the first place. Speaking of shield, at the end credit scene is him putting together a knockoff shield. Because he's definitely probably going to factor into the next episode. If he's not in the next episode, I guess we'll see him in the future. But it seems like he's going to show up in the next episode. His knockoff shield looks terrible. You guys?
Hey, he made it.
It's not vibranium.
It's not vibranium, and it's not made by who is it? Howard Stark.
Howard Stark.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So what's he going to do with that? It's a nice replica to hang on the wall.
Yeah, right? It's basically something that someone like a hobbyist could put together. And it looks like he's putting his.
Oh boy.
He's putting his one of his medals. He's bearing one of his medals. I don't know if it's his medal or if it's Lamar's medal. I don't know what the significance of that is. But he has one of his medals in it. So what do you think is going to happen in the next the episode? Do you think he's going to push himself into the well, I guess Karli's going to be in the next episode, and Karli's the one who killed Lamar, so he has to show up, right? Because he has to make what he's.
The only thing I can think of is he's going to what's the term for that? Death by cop, like that type of thing. I'm wondering if he's trying to set up a final battle where he goes out in a blaze of glory. He has his decorative shield and probably wearing his dress blues or whatever his outfit it will be, and try to go after Karli in that way. I mean, I'm just wondering if they're trying to set that up in that way. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, making out of not vibranium, and it's not going to do anything for him. So it's purely decorative at this point.
Right. Do you think they took his uniform away from him as well?
I think he still has his uniform. I don't think they took that away, because remember, he walked out with. Oh, you're talking about his Captain America uniform.
Captain America.
I'm wondering. I don't know if it's going to be his Captain America uniform or his military uniform with the shield. You know, so that's the only thing I can think of. That's what it seemed like it was telling me. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of weird to really think about what his end game actually is going to be, or maybe he won't show up in the end, and you probably see him in in a future movie or something like that, or future Disney Plus series. You'll see him reappear. That might tend to happen as well, because it's an end credit scene, so. They might just kind of like, okay, this is the end story of John Walker right now, but you will get to see John Walker return at some point in the future. So they might just want to wrap him up at that point, and then Karli and Sam and Bucky, in the last episode. But it could happen either way, actually.
Yeah. Whatever happens in the next episode, he's definitely on the path to U.S. agent. So the the knockoff Cap. Although I feel like I think they did a good job of like threading the line with him, where he has some honorable parts of him still. He's definitely not, shouldn't be Captain America. So like I said, maybe he can be useful in a positive way in the future. I'm not sure how positive he'll be. If he's aligning with Madame Hydra. But again, as I said earlier, they might just change her character to be more gray than dark. So we shall see. So the next stop that we have is Karli. She's not in this episode a lot, but she meets up with Batroc. So there's a couple things here.
Mm-hmm.
There's Batroc, there's Karli, and there's Sharon, because Sharon sent Batroc. So there's a
what's up, Sharon?
Yeah. So we're back to our theories about what's going on with Sharon.
Uh-oh.
So what do you think is happening here, guys?
I think Sharon, is she really the power broker? She sure as hell acting like it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Looks like she's the one who sends Batroc to them, and apparently she reveals that in the first episode when he was doing that mission against or trying to get away from Sam, that was her behind it too, or she's the one who hired him. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it other than they're definitely making it look like she is the power broker. So I don't know where they're going with that. And as for Karli, it looks like she's now planning something. She's in New York. She's definitely she makes a move on that little UN council looking thing, and I'm sorry, the GRC, right? Is who they were.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened to her plot of killing Captain America, right? I mean, I can't imagine what happened in that last episode was what she planned.
Yeah, but he disgraced himself far better than she could ever. Like I think we were talking about this last week. He did her.
She did
work.
Yeah, he walked. Right.
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah. Original plan was like, oh, he did it to himself. So cross that off the list. Now I'm moving on to the next one.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that. I can see that.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know what to make of Sharon right now. I think that, Jhon, your theory from last week is definitely correct. I saw some things online that kind of theorized the same thing that Jhon was saying. But, I did kind of come up with a thing as from another franchise, actually, could Sharon be another Severus Snape, from the Harry Potter franchise? So maybe, I mean, it could be the case that she's trying to play both sides, and that she is trying to make all these kind of, scheming type of things to kind of play to something. I don't know who. I don't know who the Voldemort is of the story, but it just kind of popped into my head that she could be the Snape character during this time, and that she might be vindicated or redeemed in some ways, because it didn't look very good for her during this time. And then for Karli's sake, I think that I just found it a little convenient that because of what happened in the last episode, that she now becomes fully radicalized. It's like, well, she was down that path. It's not. I think they made that decision because they're trying to get to the end. But I would have liked that a little bit more drawn out, instead of just like, oh yeah, like I think someone said, I think it was Batroc that said that, oh, she's now become fully it wasn't Zemo. She was now fully radicalized, and it's like, well, yeah, it was getting to that point, but yeah, I just felt as though that was kind of maybe a little bit aggressively forced because of the we're getting toward the end.
Well, I will say, I mean, I'm going to get to Sharon in a second, because that's the only theorizing that I'm going to do. I mean, there aren't a whole lot of theories to do in this because there's only one episode left. But I will say for Karli's sake, I have this picture of Batroc, but there was a scene. She showed up in a previous scene as well. The GRC basically rounded up all the people in that resettlement camp, and
yes.
So I think that was what pushed her over the edge there. They you remember the paper that they put on that they plastered on the wall saying that these were collaborators and they were arrested. So they arrested
protecting, aiding and abetting.
Right. So they arrested all of these people. And she's getting further and further pushed because before John Walker did what he did, the U.S. government and also the other authorities were just letting Sam and Walker be on the case, and now you have the full weight of the U.S. government, maybe even the UN They're a lot they're a lot more heavy-handed about how they're gonna pursue Karli now. So that's why they basically arrested everyone there. I mean, they're children there, so they're probably detaining everyone in that center who was in that center. So I think that
is true.
So that is probably what radicalized her to the point where it seems like she is going to assassinate the GRC council. I think that's what's going to happen. That's her plan in the next episode. Sharon. If I want to speculate, and that's the only thing to speculate about, because everything else is, I think, fairly straightforward. There are one of three things. She's either the power broker, like Jhon said in episode 3 or 4, when she showed up. She either is, and it's just straightforward that she's a power broker, and the fact that because she was left twisted in the wind, she just became, I don't know, evil. It seems like a very large heel turn. I know it's like 7 years, but still, it seems like a big change. She's either playing or she's playing both sides, like you said, Colin, like she's playing a double game, or she's the power broker and she's a Skrull. That's the only other thing that I can think of.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like she is the power broker. She is full on evil, but it's not Sharon. It's a Skrull that's taken Sharon's face.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
That'll lead nicely right into
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion,
right?
Captain
Marvel too. Yeah.
Yeah. And
wow.
And
nice one.
And I was thinking about this earlier, like, can they have a Skrull in every one of these episodes? But if they're going to do a Secret Invasion, maybe they need to do that. Like, and at the end of every one of these, a Skrull shows up, and you're like, wait, there's a lot of Skrulls in all these places, and then they do Secret Invasion.
You know, that makes a lot of sense, because think of it, a TV show setting up the TV show, right? And not only are they planting seeds for the MCU movies, but more likely they're going to try more for the TV series, right? And that makes no sense. Okay, all right, that's a good one.
we should trademark that right now, Nathan.
That's a really good one.
Speculate
like that.
Sharon Carter as a Skrull. Yes.
Highly speculative.
Skrull power broker.
Yes.
All right. So we're gonna move on to Bucky in his arc in this episode. So after stripping stripping Walker of the shield, he goes after Zemo, and we have this scene at the monument, the Sokovian monument, with Bucky confronting Zemo, and it seems like he's going to shoot him. And something else happens, and then the Wakandans show up. So, what do you guys make of this scene?
That was a pretty
nice
awesome scene.
Yeah. It's always great to see Daniel Brühl again. He's great. He is, and he plays Zemo in such a way that definitely seems like one of the more memorable bad guys, right? Despite the fact that he doesn't have a ton of action, but just the way he is, his presence. Definitely a scene to show Bucky coming around and I guess having some growth, especially in his the way he's dealing with his own issues as well, and we see that also extend when he later gets to Sam. But here, the Dora Milaje shows up, so he makes good with them in delivering Zemo back to them, and then of course it's also set up so that he could ask them for a favor, right? And it looks like they deliver on that favor when we see later on with him and Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were definitely a lot of loaded stuff that was going on there. Just like it was actually from the trailer that you realize that he didn't really kill him. And also they mentioned about the raft, which we saw in Civil War. So that kind of sets up Thunderbolt Ross and the Thunderbolts. So it's kind of like a direct thing there. So it felt like it's almost like for Zemo's the closure of his whole arc during Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's like kind of his closure, and then we'll see him in some Thunderbolts series or some movie down the line. But
that
it's
would
not
be
the
cool.
last. That's not the last you ever heard of Zemo, and having Dora Milaje is definitely really great. And also the mention of the White Wolf. So I speculate also that Bucky might, they didn't mention about like don't come back to Wakanda anytime soon. So that's just kind of like a name drop to say he's probably going to go back to Wakanda when things get a little bit more serious and heavy, and probably would need to go to Wakanda to ask for their help. And and they mentioned him as the White Wolf, which is kind of, again, just very interesting that he might play a role in Black Panther 2, but we don't want to set up the whole white savior thing. I don't think that's going to be the case, but
no, I hope not.
No, I don't think Ryan Coogler is going to do that, but I'm just saying that he's probably going to play the Martin Freeman, Andy Serkis role in Black Panther 2.
Maybe,
probably.
Maybe, yeah. So I felt there was a lot of information in this one scene. So I think that it was trying to do a lot of things. I think that the mention of White Wolf and also what happened before the Wakandans showed up is supposed to be like instructive to the audience. When he had the gun on him and Zemo said, you were trained as a killer, and then he pulls the gun on him and he click it and he shoots and nothing happens, and then you see him drop the bullets. I think that's him basically saying, I'm not the Winter Soldier anymore. I am not that person. He's definitively showing Zemo that he's not that person. And I think the mention of the White Wolf is also important, because I think if he is going to put this behind him, we cannot continue. We cannot continue to refer to the Bucky using the code name Winter Soldier, because the Winter Soldier has a lot of blood in its ledger. So I think going forward, eventually he will be known as the White Wolf in the MCU. I mean, they mention it too many times in this series for it not to be a direction that they're going to go. And I don't know if he wants the moniker the Winter Soldier to hang over his neck for the rest of his life. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. It doesn't make sense given the arc that they've written for him over this season, that he would want to be associated with that name after he's made his amends, which we'll talk about in a bit. But like you said, Zemo's going off to the raft. There might be some Thunderbolts things going in the future, so that's pretty cool. And Bucky calls in a favor with the Wakandans, and he asks them to make something for Sam. And we catch up with Bucky as he visits Sam in New Orleans, and he drops this off. We don't know what it is, unless you've seen spoilers on the internet, because there are some spoilers on the internet about what's in the box.
What? How they see it already? Jeez.
There are they make toys, and so
toys.
A toy leaked.
Where the real money is.
a toy leaked online. So that was pretty cool. Another thing that I didn't mention earlier, because it was such a small scene, was after his wings were broken off, he left them with Torres. And as I mentioned before, Torres is Falcon, the next Falcon. So they were sort of seeding that in the in these scenes. So that was pretty cool. When he said basically keep it. I think at the point, but Sam was sort of bitter about it, but he's definitely going to keep it, and he's definitely going to tinker with it. So it's I don't know if we're going to see Torres again for the rest of the season. He might pop up again, maybe at the very end. We might get an after credit scene. We might get after credit scene at the end of the the last episode where we see him put the wings back together. So looking forward to him showing up more in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so you mentioned about the fact that I don't know if you're going to mention this later on, but when they went back to New Orleans, there was two things that was pretty interesting. Just like it would have been very weird. He said if they did end up having something romantically between Bucky and Sam's sister, that would have been very fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the whole like dynamic would have been so weird. But of course, he picked up on it as like, don't flirt with my sister. So it was really, really, really funny.
Yeah.
And then the other more serious point was that when they try to sell the boat,
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned Mr. Din. So it's like, so there is a huge Vietnamese population in New Orleans specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I visited New Orleans in the past, and there is a sizable Vietnamese population there.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that the writers and the producers kind of took the time and the care to kind of know about the South in that way is really, really heartening in a lot of ways, because that is a community that is there, a real community that's there.
Yeah. If I recall correctly, I think a lot of people who were evacuated out of Vietnam were moved to New Orleans and Texas. So there's a large community in Texas as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Texas as well. Yes.
Yeah. So then we get, I keep pushing the wrong button there. Then we get, after the montages of putting the boat together, which is important, and I'll get to it when we get to Sam. We get a scene on Sam's property, his house, with Bucky, between Bucky and him, and actually, that was so good that I actually have a clip that I'm gonna play. Let me just make sure that the sound is set up properly, and I'll jump to that.
When Steve told me what he was planning, I don't think either of us really understood what it felt like for the black man to be handed the shield. How could we? I owe you an apology. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Whatever happened with Walker wasn't your fault.
But Steve is gone. And this might be a surprise, but it doesn't matter what Steve thought. You gotta stop looking to other people to tell you who you are. You up for a little tough love? Do the work. You weren't amending, you were avenging. You gotta go to them and be of service. I'm sure there's at least one person in that book who needs closure about something, and you're the only person who can give it to him. Start with one.
Good talk.
It was a really good scene from the beginning to the end. There's one of the better written scenes for the entire season. So.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you guys?
Yeah, and I think that
it showed.
Go.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I think that for me, it's just it just kind of plays to what Sam was doing before he was Falcon, and it was like in between the time when we met him as a soldier, like he was basically just trying to do his job. Actually, the job that he had, before he met Steve and stuff like that. So I think that again relates back to that to those moments of Winter Soldier, kind of like him, kind of like it's almost like a talk therapy in a way, support group in a way to tell Bucky that there are some things that you can do, do the work to provide closure for a lot of people. So I think you're right. That was definitely very touching and very poignant, and it also speaks to kind of Sam's character as well, and to what he was before he hung out with Steve.
Yeah, and they also, in addition to Sam giving great advice, listening to Bucky, and just really giving his little counseling moment, as he is an experienced counselor, Bucky also confessing some of the realizations that he's come to, really also figuring out why he was so angry about Sam giving up the shield. So I thought it was another great growth scene for both of them. But while they were doing all that, you saw the interplay physically. They're throwing the shield around like they're playing Frisbee with each other. And I thought it highlighted, again, actions kind of telling the story while they're also exposing, their awareness and things that they have realized. All at the same time, you're seeing that more and more they're in sync. Their interplay with the shield, I thought that was fascinating. I just love the way they were showing that hey, looks like they're building up a nice little teamwork thing here going at the same time. So that was great.
Yeah.
Co-workers.
Yeah. I didn't even...
Yeah.
Co-work.
So I didn't even actually think about that until you just said it, Jhon. It was a very masculine written scene, because they were definitely talking about their feelings, right? But it's just like two guys throwing a ball between each other while talking about their feelings. So it's
but instead of a ball, I think they can rip their heads off.
Yeah, exactly. So that I didn't even notice that. I mean, I knew that they were doing it, and it was a cool little physical thing that they were doing while talking. But it just goes to show you just can't have two guys sitting in front of each other just talking, because that would be a little weird. You have to have them, kind of throwing something and being physical at the same time while talking. So that's interesting.
And then they went right back to being little boys at the end, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, with the joking back and forth about the coworker, and it was cool.
Yeah.
I like how the scene started. Like as I played the clip, him actually admitting that he and Steve didn't think it through, and it also verifies that he knew what Steve was going to do when he left. So there was all this speculation for the last couple. There's all this speculation over the last couple of years about whether or not he knew, whether or not he was okay with it. He was obviously okay with it. That's why he said to Steve, "I'm going to miss you," even though Steve, to everyone else, Steve was just going to be gone for a second, but he knew because he talked to Steve. So it verifies that he talked to Steve before he left.
Yes.
And so that I appreciated that little bit of continuity, and also him admitting that they as two white dudes couldn't possibly have known what was the weight that they were putting on Sam's shoulders. So he apologized for him, and he didn't just say I apologize. He said I apologize, and then he actually said I'm sorry. I sometimes even have problems with that. So he actually said I'm sorry to Sam, and he also said Walker. None of the stuff about Walker is on you. Because throughout the entire series, he was blaming Walker, the Walker thing on him. So that was really good. And as you guys said, the therapy, showing who Sam is through the talk therapy, showing what his character again, and why he would be a great Captain America, why he's the best person to have the shield in this scene, and they've done that through the entire season. Showing Sam's character, and it is stark contrast to what we saw earlier in the episode when Walker was basically manipulating and lying to Lamar's parents and his sister. So it was a great scene. So,
and I just want to give credit. It's like having someone that kind of like is very self-reflective, and then you show growth and much more self-awareness in the way that Bucky presented himself is definitely very refreshing. And it kind of also sometimes there are things that shows to help to inform people how we live our lives, and I think that. Particularly that scene, we relate how we are so messed up in terms of race relations in this country. If there's at least some people that are able to kind of glean from what he said about, we don't really fully understand you, but we are willing to learn and listen. I think that just speaks volumes to kind of like how much quality a show like this can have to impact people's lives. And I hope that is the case when people do watch that and then get that sense, and it resonates with a lot of people. It may not just be a race; it may be just understanding others and just be kind of, again, self-aware
and open,
and have that capability of being of growing as an individual.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. Yeah. So speaking of Sam, we're gonna end on Sam because he is the main person of this, right? So as you mentioned, Jhon, earlier, the first thing that struck me about Sam is after the fight, just him kind of horrified to look at the shield. He seemed like he felt an enormous amount of guilt, and this is like a beautiful shot here. The director, Kari Skogland, she's really great about where to put the camera to make like iconic shots, and this is a really interesting shot. One of the best in the entire season, actually. Just seeing his face, and then there's a couple shots of him looking down at the shield, and you could see how much regret is on his face. So that was very interesting to me. And I think from here after this, he goes on to see Isaiah. He goes back to Baltimore after because Bucky goes to chase after Zemo. Oh, actually, sorry. After that, he goes to the base and he talks to Joaquin for a little bit. Joaquin Torres. And then he leaves and he goes to Baltimore. And this is another scene set of scenes that were so good that I wanted to actually show in a clip. So I have another clip here of this.
That what I think it is? Leave it covered. Those stars and stripes don't mean nothing good to me. You understand. Every black man does, whether you want to deny it or not.
Don't do that bitter old man thing with me.
If you ain't bitter, you're blind. I used to be like you until I opened my eyes, until I saw men in the red tails, the famous 332 fight for this country, only to come home to find crosses burned on their lawn.
I'm from the South. I get that. But you were a super soldier like Steve. You could have been the next.
The next? What? You wanted to know what went wrong?
We gotta do something. We gotta tell somebody.
No. You think I wouldn't be dead in a day if you brought me out? They were worried my story might get out. They erased me, my history. But they've been doing that for 500 years. Pledge allegiance to that, my brother. They will never let a black man be Captain America. And even if they did, no self-respecting black man would ever want to be.
So yeah, there's a
awesome.
lot. There's a lot and I think so. Like I cut that down to like a minute and a half, but it's like a 5 to 7 minutes. There's a lot in those scenes between Sam and Isaiah. And Sam says, don't play the bitter old man thing with me, but I think Isaiah has come to his bitterness honestly, and he has good reason to be bitter. So yeah, what did you guys think of these two scenes? Yeah.
Just powerful scenes, powerful. Acting's fantastic. He plays that part so well, and just the raw emotion that comes out, and just goes through the bitter parts of Black history, right? The injustices that were suffered, especially not just him, but he's also referring to many of the real injustices in history. And I'm pleasantly surprised they went there. They really went there in the show, and they just put it right all out there. And Sam is confronted with it. He has to face that and the reality of it, and at the same time coming to grips with the injustices, not only what this man has gone through, but just the weight of it all, right? Just trying to take that all in. Just very powerful. It just allowed me to also talk to my family real quick during those scenes. It's like, yeah, that happened. Yep, that actually did happen. That happened too. And this is what he's referring to. And Red Tails is, the Tuskegee Airmen, and, all that stuff that he brought up in his recounting of what he suffered, and just also very emotional, talking about what he lost, all the things that he lost for the country and for what he's done, and only to be told lies, only to be just treated just inhumanely, like just some piece of meat, and experimented on for 30 years, all that stuff. Yeah, he's justified in his bitterness and his anger, and no, he doesn't care to show it, and he's got no one else to complain to. Who's going to really listen, right? So I get it. It all came down. I just wish Sam was a little bit more like, I mean, I know he was feeling it too, but I was expecting a little bit more of a heavier reaction, I guess. But still, it was a very powerful scene.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the first time when I saw it, I definitely did not appreciate it more. As you were going through that, Nathan, it just kind of I was just like welled up. I was just like, damn. And it's just, and it's like, and you know, this is the Black Lives Matter movement, you know, moment for Marvel. I mean, in that scene is what they are thinking about. You know, and I cannot help but to think that you know, even as we are recording this of what's happening right now in Minneapolis, it still happens. And it's still happening even after all that has happened, you know, throughout history. What happened last year, it's still happening. And what happened in Chicago, it's still happening. And it's just, I can understand why people are exhausted, and they're just like, it just pains me completely. And the fact that, you know, and the fact that, you know, we talk so much about this in our channel about this, and it's just like, when are we going to wake up? And then it's just painful to see that there's some people out there that still don't get it. And it's like, and I think, Jhon, you mentioned about this, and I think it was like a message board that you were in, or some other thing. And it's like, it's just still people don't get this, and it's like, this is out there now. And I think that hopefully, you know, with a platform like the MCU, again, really hits these issues home with people, and to really bring this type of awareness out in the forefront, because we cannot lose this battle, because this is just an ongoing battle. And I think that's what Sam also said, was that it's an ongoing thing. But I can definitely understand why Isaiah has been beaten down, because it's just like the injustices and the pain and stuff like that. And I think that Sam, and then what was also poignant was that later on, Sarah then mentioned that don't let that bitterness hold you down, Sam, you know, and I think that kind of convinced Sam to say, look, you know, we have to really move forward. And, you know, what Isaiah said is all true. And whatever progress that we have made, you know, in terms of our history right now, you know, first Black president and all that, it's all true. But there is still that stain of slavery and racism and mass incarceration that's happening in this country, and we have to come to grips with it, because if we do not, we're just losing ourselves if we do not do that.
Yeah. These scenes were a lot for me, because as Jhon said, everything he said is true, right? I mean, everything he said is true. From how the Red Tails were treated after fighting in a war for this country, to even talking about the specifics of what happened to him inside of the MCU. It is fictionalized, and it's a fictionalized account of what happened to men in the Tuskegee experiment, right? People were experimented on over decades. It didn't end until like the 70s. They didn't treat them. They lied to them, just like he was lied to, just like his wife was lied to. Yeah, and the other thing that hit me like a gut punch is like when he said, you know, they erase me, just like they've been erasing us for 500 years, and it's true. Like for hundreds of years now, history is whitewashed. well, there are two things, right? American history is whitewashed that the contributions of black people are often either minimized or erased altogether. And you can think of what he said in a different way. The people that were enslaved hundreds of years ago, their history was taken from them. They were cut off from their lands. So that history was erased. So everything he said is true. Like I said, he came by his bitterness honestly, and a lot of people would feel exactly the same way that he did. And what he said at the end about them never letting a black man be Captain America, and no self-respecting black man would want to be Captain America, I think a lot of people would feel the same way. It's a lot. It's a lot to try to drape yourself in the flag of the country that has abused not just you during your lifetime, but your family and your ancestors going back generations. It's a lot to feel like it's just nothing. You just wrap yourself in the flag like it's nothing. It's a lot to ask of anyone. Which goes back to what Bucky was saying. It's like they couldn't have known what they were asking of Sam to ask him to walk around with this symbol of America.
Sure. Because
this symbol of America is a symbol could be rightly understood as a symbol of oppression. So yeah, it was a great scene, and I can't believe that it showed up in a Marvel show. But since it showed up in a Marvel show, hopefully a lot of people throughout the world will see it, and it will help some people. I mean, a television show, I don't think it's gonna, change anyone's hearts, but hopefully it opens people up to having deeper conversations about all the things that were addressed in this series. So yeah,
I mean, like I said, it's their Black Lives Matter moment. MCU just had that, and it's real, and it's out there. So whatever people take from it, I hope that people do reflect and think critically about these issues that we have, and about the history that we've had in this country.
Inevitably, we will see some of the toxic fans, right? You're going to see some of that. It's even the MCU can't escape it. Right. They experienced it quite a bit with Captain Marvel, all because they keep saying it's an agenda movie. I mean, these pansies are just complaining about every little thing. And just because Brie Larson spoke up about certain things, we can't stand this wokeness and crap like that. They're going to say the same thing. I can see it already. They're going to be like, why are they shoving this message? We don't need to see this. It's just like, you know what? Put it in there. Put it in there. Put it in the forefront. Put it in the most mainstream things in there. And we get enough of it, it'll be normal. So,
correct.
Get in there. And that's why people say representation matters, right? You see a black Captain America, representation matters, right? You want to see all that. And that's why when we were talking about the Justice League movie, right? The people of color, the minorities that were superheroes that were cut out, or major characters were cut out of that too. Representation matters. People want to see that. And I think we're also seeing, and just we did a recent video on Star Trek Discovery where it's a very diverse cast. I want to see that. I feel more comfortable watching stuff like that because I see people like me, people who are different, people who are coming together and doing things and telling great stories, even fictional stories like what we're seeing now in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I love it. And, more to it, more power to them. Bring it on. And I want to see more of that. And I'm glad they did that. I'm glad they went there. And again, this is my man crush on Kevin Feige. This white guy gets it. He's the one. He wants to do it. He's in charge of it. He could have said no. And yes, he was slow on the trigger a little bit, and maybe he had some opposition after all these years. But hey, he's doing it now, and he's doing it in grand fashion, and I'm loving it.
Right. Mm-hmm. So you were saying earlier about having a white savior. So I want to give the credit to Feige for doing this, but I also want to say, like you said, he was a little slow, and I also want to give the credit to Nate Moore. Nate Moore is an executive producer at Marvel. He works with Kevin Feige. I don't think Black Panther would have been made without Nate Moore. This probably wouldn't have been made without Nate Moore. Yep. He's a black man who's been at Marvel before Black Panther was made, and I think he's been working on Kevin for years to get him to this point. So, yeah.
Thank you, Nate.
Yeah, good. So, moving on from... All right, so the other thing I wanted to say was the story that Isaiah accounts is actually a modified version of the story in the miniseries Truth. As I mentioned, the name of this episode is called Truth. Red, White, and Black. It recounts some of the same story that was recounted in this episode, but it's a little bit different. You should definitely try to pick it up. It's probably going for a ridiculous amount of money, but you can get it on Comixology or Marvel Universe or Marvel Infinite, I think is what it's called. The app, you can read it if you a digital copy of it. It's a good story. And Isaiah showed up a lot of other times after they introduced him in this story. This story came out in 2003. They're actually Marvel for the beginning of Marvel's run. They were pulling from a lot of things from the 60s that Stan made and stuff like that. But now, as they get further and further into the MCU, they're pulling from things that happened not that long ago. We talked about Truth but the other thing that they're pulling is when he goes in to speak to
Eli.
Yeah, when he goes in to speak to Isaiah, we see Eli, and Eli is a young Avenger, and he's definitely going to this actor is definitely going to show up later on, probably as his character in the comics who's Patriot. So that was also pretty cool addition, because they're definitely seeding these things, and Young Avengers is definitely something that happened in the 2000s as well. So they're pulling from very very recent comic history to start telling their stories now, which is great. Yeah. As you guys said, after meeting with Eli and after a bunch of montages with Bucky and getting the boat together, he has this conversation with Sarah, where I think he decides to take on the mantle, understanding the weight of the mantle, to continue fighting, as Colin said, which isn't an easy thing.
No.
So I appreciated this conversation for a couple reasons. They gave them, these actors, a beat of actually resolving some things from the first episode, because she was sort of lighting into him in the first episode, but I think she saying to him, "I never thought you were running away," was very important, because I think that was the impression that you got from her in the first episode. But everyone knows that sometimes you say things that you don't actually mean for lots of reasons. You're upset. You might be trying to hurt the other person because of something or another, but you don't actually mean the thing. So it was good for them to have this full circle conversation where she's basically saying that you're a hero to the world, but you also came back here to be a hero to us as well. So I appreciated this little beat. This episode also had a lot of montages. We had the boat montage, and then I'm going to talk about in a second after this scene we have Sam's training montage. So
yes.
Yeah, the training montage, definitely, I cracked a lot of comments on that one, jokes and comments, because he's doing all that. I'm like, why is he flipping so much? He's not even super soldier. He keeps flipping and doing those things. And at the same time, it's like, man, that thing's just going to rip his head off, slice him right off.
Yeah, that's why he kept
one of these
ducking
days.
a lot.
Like, why doesn't he wear a helmet? I mean, I'm hoping that he'll eventually don a helmet. If he's not a super soldier and he's springing that thing around, he better wear a helmet. Safety first. But yeah, it was a great scene with him and his sister. And it was a nice setup that he's taking the next step. We're getting closer and closer to him really accepting that he is the next Captain America.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely great overall. I think that, but I was just curious when they went through the training montage to say he's already pretty in shape, and I'm like, does he need to get more in shape?
You could see him sticking out his shirt.
Yeah, it's like he his muscles, he's doing his push-ups, and you see his bulging muscles. I'm like, is it basically he's trying to get stronger? It's like, but it doesn't make any sense because he's already a pretty in shape guy, and he's pretty he's buff already. I mean, he was with Steve and with Black Widow for 2 years on the run, and I'm pretty sure he got jacked during that time too.
I don't think it's a new martial art now with the shield.
The shield. So he's trying to get better with the shield. I think that's what that's what the training montage was. He was trying to get better with the shield. And people that are in shape and in this much shape, they continue to train. So I think it was just him training with the shield and also trying to, just do his regular stuff because he flips.
Got it.
They also he flips a lot in this training montage, but if you go back to all the fight scenes, he flips in those scenes too. He's always doing a kick flip. He flips around and so I think that's what he
had a jetpack to do that.
Right, so that's part
jetpack flips.
Yeah,
that was also probably why he had to train here because now he doesn't have the jetpack and he didn't. So he's just has to do it off of himself. So.
But you're right, Nathan, that he did do one big flip in Civil War, at the beginning of Civil War. I remember that it was in trailer and stuff like that. So he has been doing that. Yeah. So there has been evidence of that. That's
part of his whatever fighting style that he has. He has a lot of he does the flip kicks. I think he was trying to do he was trying to incorporate his flips, incorporate the shield into his flips. He doesn't want to get rid of his flips. His flips are very, very stylish and spectacular to watch. He wants to be able to do the flips and also catch the shield. So he has to do the training montage
with no gloves.
Right.
Yes.
So that was.
I thought maybe he would at least put some NFL receiver gloves on.
Yeah.
To do that.
Maybe the full outfit that the Wakandans made for him will have the full gloves. We'll see what they.
I might have to spoil myself and see what this outfit looks like.
I hope that Marvel, because things have leaked in the past through toys. I hope Marvel fake this out because I hope it. I mean, when I saw the toy actually looks pretty cool. So if it is that's fine. Mm-hmm. But it'd be interesting if it was something completely different as well. So we shall see what the Wakandans have cooked up for him. He's moving on up the technological ladder there. He had a U.S. Army gear, then he got Stark Tech. Mm-hmm. Now he has Wakandans. Mm-hmm. There's no one on the planet that can make better things than Wakandans. And above that he's going to have to get some gear from some aliens if he's going to upgrade again.
Correct.
So, yeah. So it's cool.
Do you think Bucky got a new uniform too?
I don't know. I think the Wakandans told him to stay away for a little while. So I don't know. Yeah. I think that was his last.
If you get me a new uniform.
Yeah. I think that was his last favor for a little while. They it's like.
Yeah.
But I think that they're going to forgive the White Wolf. He'll show up in Wakanda at some point in the future again.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah. And I think that was pretty much the end of the episode, except for the end credit scenes. We ended with the Karli executing her plan. In the GRC. See, the GRC is planning to relocate 20 million people, which is going to just cause a human humanitarian disaster trying to relocate that many people. I think
it already is one. But I
Yeah.
mean, they're so callously talking about, we got to get him out of there.
Yeah.
You jerks. Are you serious?
It's the same guy, actually, that led the tribunal. It's the same guy that was leading the GRC. So he's the shadow villain in this whole thing, you know?
Right.
Kind of like the shadow villain. Could be. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's how we end. We end on Sam looking at the suit or whatever's in the box, which we assume is a suit, and then we cut to black. So it should be very interesting next week. It should be a lot of spectacucal. A lot of spectacle is what I meant to say. Next week, I actually messed up some scenes from last week are going to show up and showed up in our thumbnail, and I had to swap it out. So Bucky's going to be on a motorcycle at some point because we haven't seen that scene yet. I thought it was going to show up in this episode. So we'll see Bucky on a motorcycle and fighting flag smashers in the next thing. That's the only thing I've seen. They actually didn't have many scenes from the last episode in any of the trailers. They might start putting some in trailers soon. Anyway, I think that was the last thing I had to talk about, guys. You talk about? Is there anything else, or is there any questions from anyone on the live stream? Any questions from the audience?
No, we're good on the questions, and another great episode. I honestly can't point to a bad episode so far. Yeah. They've all been great. They've given us just enough to satisfy our appetites for consuming Marvel content, especially in this way week to week. So I'm loving it. What a time to be alive, right? Yeah. For all our nerds out there, just to be able to see all the great movies and TV shows that are out. Yeah. We sure as hell didn't have this when we were kids. We had the cheesy stuff with the terrible graphics and effects and costumes, right? All spandex costumes. So it's awesome to see the type of stuff we're seeing now.
Although it's very interesting, you mentioned that, Jhon. I think that the X-Men cartoon series definitely had a lot of these themes as well, and it's still my all-time favorite out of from the '90s. So I mean, Marvel was doing this stuff well before the MCU, and we have to remember also, like, Blade was the first blockbuster. I mean, a black man being the lead role in Blade. Yeah. So it's like Marvel has been doing this stuff before, and in terms of this type of progressive moving forward and things like that. But yeah, the X-Men stuff, if you rewatch it on Disney Plus, definitely some really good scenes. And I think there was one that I saw online of a picture they posted about the mutants spreading a virus. So that was like, whoa, like totally whoa. And of course, there some of the Friends of Humanity stuff really resonated with a lot of alt-right type of things, themes. So it's like it definitely rewatched it. Definitely watched the things. I know one other point I want to make is that there's definitely people that prefer WandaVision than Falcon. There's people that prefer both. And there's people that actually like Falcon and Winter Soldier a lot more because of the action. So you definitely, because of that, I think that Marvel's trying to get a lot of the diverse type of viewers into it, and you can see that the complete stark differences between WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier. So it really it plays to the tastes of a lot of different types of people. So hopefully they continue to do that with the other Disney Plus series that's coming out this year. Actually, there's I think a couple of more, at least two, definitely two, but maybe even three. So yeah.
I think we have Loki, then Hawkeye, and then Miss Marvel this year. So yeah, it's the What If. The What If. Oh, the What If. The What If. Yeah. The What If series is going to be this summer. Yeah, I forgot about that one. But yeah, I appreciate everything that they've done. I appreciate it for different reasons. I appreciated WandaVision. I appreciate this. But for completely different reasons that we talked about for the last hour and 25 minutes. So that is what we think. We are really interested to hear what you guys think. So comment down below, like and subscribe, and we will see you next time to talk about the finale. We are going to be on Facebook next week. So join us there, and we'll talk about the finale. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.